is Hideout and welcome to the Pantheon, where today we're back in the cold realms of Kaldheim and we're having a look at a rather dog-like fellow. Well, it's more of a wolf, it's just a big dog, isn't it really? It's Sarulf, Realm Eater. 3 mana in Golgari for a 3/3 legendary creature, Wolf. Whenever a permanent an opponent controls is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on Sarulf, Realm Eater. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Sarulf has more than one 1/1 counter on it, you may remove all of them. If you do, exile each other non-land permanent with a converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of counters removed this way. So this is a really cool card. You know, we're going to be wanting to remove things from our opponents, and then it's just a big massive board wipe waiting to happen. Or we can just have a massive beta because it is a choice as to whether you remove those 1/1 counters. Really, really nice. And this artwork is pretty good. I do like this card. You know, it's a different take on Golgari. Golgari is my favourite combination. And having that +1/+1 counter sort of aggressive slant. What's a stint? I think it's a period of time. But that is quite an interesting direction to take the deck in, so it's quite fun. If you like these videos, please do consider subscribing. I'm going to be making one of these for every single legendary creature ever printed. And, well, there's a lot of them to do, so I'm going to be doing it for quite some time. So come along and join me. Without further ado, let's have a look at the top 5. And at number 5, we've got Professor's Warning, a common from Strixhaven. 1 black for an instant, choose 1. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature, or target creature gains indestructible at the end of turn. So that means that it just can't be blown up or damage can't deal with it. So why is this good? Well, putting an extra 1/1 counter can really push our commander, you know, over the edge in terms of the board wipe ability, so we could really get a nice bit of benefit from that. But as we're going to be quite an aggressive deck and really focused on our commander, a lot of our opponents are going to remove our commander. So having protection is absolutely essential. Really, really powerful on both fronts here. To go with this, here are a couple of ways that we can get extra counters on our commander. And I've really focused on land-based things here because our commander's, you know, board wipe ability that's built into him exiles all non-lands. So if we've got a way of giving 1/1 counters with the land, that's absolutely fantastic. Oran Reef the Vastwood is a land, enters the battlefield taps, and taps for a green. You put a 1/1 counter on each green creature that enters the battlefield this turn. So we can only have this when Syril enters, but it also does work excellently. Say you went in sort of a token sort of direction with the deck. That works really well with all your green creatures entering that as well. Then we have Opal Palace, which taps for a colours, or you could pay 1 and tap it. Add to your mana pool 1 mana of any colour in commander's colour identity. If you spend this mana to cast your commander, it enters the battlefield with a number of additional 1/1 counters on it, equal to the number of times you cast him from the command zone. So again, it works excellently with Sarulf. You know, our commander will die. You know, it's going to be a beacon for removal. And if it comes back into the battlefield, we can start it off with a couple of counters and just start getting aggressive or wipe the board of anything that's sort of standing in our way. Then we've got Tyrite Sanctum, a land that taps for colours. You can pay 2, target legendary creature becomes a god in addition to its other types. Put a 1/1 counter on it. And then pay 4, tap it, sacrifice it, put an indestructible counter on target god. So the main reason we want to be playing this is the 2 and tap ability. We can just constantly be putting 1/1 counters on our commander and keep getting in. But if we do want to protect it, you know, we can leave up 4 mana in this, tap it, put an indestructible counter, and then our commander is indestructible and won't die to a board wipe. Really, really nice. Here are a couple of ways to double 1/1 counters or, you know, use them in a good way. Corpsejack Menace, however, is my least favourite because it is a permanent. So if we do decide to remove all the 1/1 counters, we're going to end up exiling the Corpsejack Menace as well. 4 mana for a 4/4, Fungus. If 1 or more 1/1 counters will be put on a creature you control, twice that many 1/1 counters are put on instead. So really, really nice. And, you know, it can just be a big beater by itself. Then we have Inspiring Call, and really good way to protect our commander. 3 mana for an instant, draw a card for each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it. Those creatures gain indestructible until end of turn. So not only does it protect our commander from any sort of board wipes or removal, but we're going to be drawing a couple of cards. Really, really nice. And finally, Invigorating Surge, 3 mana for an instant, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. then double the number of 1/1 counters on that creature. This could be a finisher in the deck. Say Sarulf is swinging in with 6 1/1 counters on it. We put another one on, so that's 7, then double it. He's at least a 19/19. So we're going to be swinging in for tons of damage. And because it's an instant, we can just flash it in and really get our opponents quite good. Which brings me on to number 4. And number 4, we've got Gem Raiser. And talking of that sort of aggressive stand, getting in there with our creatures, Mutate is a really cool ability for that. 4 mana for a beast, which has reach, trample, and whenever this creature mutates, destroy target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. So mutate basically means you overlay it on top of or below whatever creature you're putting it onto. So this would make our commander into a 4/4 with reach and trample, which is really, really powerful, especially the trample when you've got stacking tons of 1/1 counters onto our commander. So we'll be able to get in, and also when it mutates, we get to destroy something, so our commander will see that, get a 1/1 counter from us destroying something. Excellent removal, and just works really well. Then we've got Mind Leecher, 6 mana for a 5/5 with Mutate for 5 mana. And then Flying, which is really good with a commander again, because nice bit of evasion. And whenever this creature mutates, exile the top card of each opponent's library face down. You may look at and play those cards for as long as they remain exiled. So that's a really nice bit of card advantage. You know, you're drawing 3 cards from this mutating onto our commander, and then we're going to be smashing in for tons of damage. Then we got Sawtooth Demolisher, 6 mana for a 6/6 with a trample. A Mutate for 4 mana, which is really good, really nice and cheap. And whenever this creature mutates, destroy target non-creature opponent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green beast creature token. So yes, it does give, a blocker to our opponents, but our commander will get a 1/1 counter, and he'll be a baseline 6/6 with trample. So we can get in for absolutely tons of damage. Finally, we got Berserk for a single green. It's an instant. Cast only before attack damage step. Attack damage? Combat damage. Attack damage. Target creature gains trample and gets plus X+0 until end of turn, where X is its power. At the beginning of the next end step, destroy that creature if it attacked this turn. So, there's a couple of really cool things you can do with this. You can cast it on your opponent's creatures, before they attack, and then they have to destroy it. But because of all the ways that we can give our commander indestructible, this does actually destroy the creature, not make us sacrifice it. So, if our commander is indestructible, we get all the buff, we get the trample, but we don't have to destroy him. Well, we do have to destroy him, but because he's indestructible, he just sits there and goes, try a bit harder, mate. Which brings me on to number 3. Number 3, we've got Dawn of the Dead. And I talked about how I didn't really like permanents, but this card is a real pet card for me. I love it. And it works so well setting up getting a bunch of counters on our commander. 5 mana for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life. Whew, stop right there. That's incredible. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to play. That creature gains haste until end of turn. Remove it from the game at end of turn. So each upkeep we get to reanimate something, and then it goes away at the end of turn. However, if it leaves the battlefield before the end of turn, it just goes back to your graveyard. So you can just keep reusing things over and over again each upkeep, which is pretty goddamn cool. So why don't we reanimate Fleshbag Marauder? 3 mana for a 3/1. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature. So we're going to sacrifice the Fleshbag Marauder, but our opponents then have to sacrifice creatures, which means our opponents are going to be sacrificing 3 things, so our commander will get 3 1/1 counters. And then we can do this each upkeep, just control what they're playing. If our opponents are playing like a Voltron sort of deck, they're going to be sacrificing their Voltron commander every single turn, and they're going to be crying all over the place. Then we've got Merciless Executioner, 3 mana for a 3/1. When it's the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature. Exactly the same as Fleshbag Marauder, except it's not quite as graphic and disgusting, which, has its positives and negatives. Shieldred is another great way of reanimating these things over and over again. 7 mana for a 6/6 with Swamp Warp. At the beginning of your upkeep, return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. So you can return one of these, it goes back to the graveyard when we sacrifice it. And at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature. So again, that's going to get us tons of counters onto our Sarulf. And then because we have the choice as to whether to remove the 1/1 counters from our commander, we can just sit there, behind Shieldred going, ha, look at how incredible this is. We're building a massive wolf and just keep slamming in with our wolf killing people, which is good. With all this sacrifice, Mazarek Kral Death Priest is a really cool card for this commander. 3 mana for a 2/2 with flying. Whenever a player sacrifices another opponent, Put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. So not only is our big wolf going to get bigger and bigger, but everything on our field will just be absolutely colossal. And that includes us, you know, when we're sacrificing things. So really, really powerful card, and I like it quite a bit. Then we've got Zhao Dun, the One-Eyed, a very expensive card, but a really, really cool one. 4 mana for a 3/2 with Horsemanship, which means it can only be blocked by other horsemanship-wielding creatures. And we can sacrifice it. Return target black card from your graveyard to your hand. Activate this ability only during your turn before attackers are declared. So yes, we're not forcing our opponents to sacrifice things over and over again, but with one of these effects, we can just keep rebuying him and then rebuy any black spell in our graveyard. Wonderful. Then we have Apprentice Necromancer. 2 mana for a 1/1, pay a black, tap, sacrifice it, return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. That creature gains haste. At the beginning of the next end step, sacrifice it. So this is a one-time thing, but it can really rebuy one of our big things, get swing in tons of damage. Which brings me on to number 2, and at number 2, we've got Pier's Whim. Pier. 4 mana for a sorcery, and these cards are all about, you know, we're going to really cripple our opponents, but they don't affect us, or if anything, we get to benefit from it. So, it's a sorcery. For each player, including us, choose friend or foe. Each friend searches the library for a land card, puts it onto the battlefield tapped, and shuffles their library. Each foe sacrifices an artifact or enchantment they control. So, naturally, I'm quite friendly with myself, you know, in a non-too-weird way. But I'm going to want to search up one of my lands, you know, Tyrite Sanctum, so we can make our commander indestructible. And then we're going to make each of our opponents sacrifice something. Unless you want to make an allegiance with them, and then you go, oh yeah, you can have whatever land you want. Not that big of a thing if you're not going to be attacked and killed next turn. Really, really good. Tons of counters on our commander and gets us a perfect land. To go along with this, we've got Virtue's Maneuver. 3 mana for a sorcery. For each player, choose friend or foe. Each friend returns a creature card from their graveyard to their hand. Each foe sacrifices a creature they control. So this works really well with all the sort of Fleshbag Marauder effects we've got. We can rebuy our Fleshbag Marauder from the graveyard and make our opponents sacrifice a bunch of creatures. Works pretty nice. Then Marion Misery. I was going to say Mystery. 2 mana for a sorcery. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or enchantment. So giving them a choice there isn't that great, but for 2 mana, you're getting 3 sacrifices, 3 1/1 counters on our commander. Then we've got Windgrace's Judgment, 5 mana for an instant. For any number of opponents, destroy target non-land permanent that player controls. Absolutely great, hits absolutely anything. You know, planeswalkers, enchantments, artifacts, whatever you want. And you're going to be hitting 3 of them. Really, really powerful spell, and the fact it's an instant just works wonderfully. Which brings me on to my number 1 pick. Note number 1, we've got Natural Balance. 4 mana for a sorcery. And these cards are all ones that they are symmetrical, completely symmetrical, but we will come out of them far ahead of anyone else. Each player controlling 6 or more lands sacrifices enough lands to reduce his or her land total to 5. Each player controlling 4 or fewer lands may search their library for enough basic lands to bring his or her land total to 5 and put those lands into play. Those players all shuffle their library afterwards. Now, incredibly mouthy way of describing it, but basically, if you have more than 5 lands, sacrifice down to 5. And that is exactly what we want. Late game, this is phenomenal because it just brings everyone crashing down. All the lands are getting sacrificed, and our commander cares about any permanent being sacrificed. So the lands going away just helps us so much. I've just noticed in the artwork, it looks like there's a couple of falling fingers, which is really quite bizarre. And that's what's going to be happening. People are going to be chopping off their fingers out of pure dismay. But Pox is another fantastic card. Triple green, sorcery. Each player loses a third of his or her life, then discards a third of the cards in his or her hand, then sacrifices a third of the creatures he or she controls, then sacrifices a third of the lands he or she controls, round up each time. So this is absolutely crippling. Late game, 3 mana, you're going to be getting so many counters on your commander, and you just get it's a mini board wipe. Absolutely amazing. So powerful. Smallpox is a mini version. 2 mana for a sorcery. Each player loses 1 life, discards a card, sacrifices a creature, and then sacrifices land. Make sure you have some kind of token or another creature on the field when you place, not just your commander, or else you're going to be sacrificing your commander. Which, you probably just don't want to do that, so don't. Tombstone Stairwell, another personal favourite card of mine here. 4 mana for an enchant world with cumulative upkeep of 2. During each upkeep, each player puts into play a Tombstone token for each summon card in his or her graveyard. That's a creature card. Treat those tokens as 2/2 black creatures that are unaffected by summoning sickness, haste, for those in the more recent times, and count as zombies. At the end of the turn, or if it leaves play, bury all those tokens. So, we play this card, during our opponent's next upkeep, everyone gets a bunch of tokens, and then at the end step, they all sacrifice them. So this is going to happen over and over again. Absolutely pile counters onto our commander. And if you're playing a very graveyard-centered deck, this can just be incredible. We can get massive amounts of tokens that just swing in for tons of damage. To go along with this, Vona's Hunger. Amazing card. 3 mana instant with Ascend, so if we control 10 or more permanents, we have the City's Blessing. Each opponent sacrifices a creature. If we have the City's Blessing, instead, each opponent sacrifices half the creatures he or she controls rounded up. So that doesn't affect us. So I did say these were all symmetrical, but this one isn't, but it's too good not to mention. And we're going to absolutely blow them out. Board wipe for 3 mana at instant speed and tons of counters on our commander. Then we've got Culling Ritual, 4 mana for a sorcery. Destroy each non-land opponent with mana value 2 or less. Add a black or a green for each opponent destroyed this way. Fantastically, this doesn't blow up our commander as it's a 3 CMC card, but we're going to get tons of mana out of this. Everyone's Sol Rings are going to collapse off the field. Absolutely tons of counters on our commander. Finally, we've got Wave of Vitriol. 7 mana for a sorcery. Each player sacrifices all artifacts, enchantments, and non-basic lands he or she controls. For each land sacrificed away, his controller may search his or her library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. Then each player who searches his library this way shuffles it. Can be absolutely back-breaking. I was once playing a 5-colour deck where I wasn't running any basics, and somebody played this card, and I lost. I lost. It was over. The game was done. I couldn't do anything. Still quite fun though. And the artwork, look at it. A big wave of green goo. Absolutely incredible. And those are my top 5 cards for Sarulf, the Wolfy Avenger. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please do subscribe and comment and like, share, tweet, do whatever you want about this video anyway. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.